You already know the feeling. The moment you start speaking and suddenly it becomes about them. The moment your pain becomes their excuse. The moment your truth is twisted until it loses its shape. If you have ever spoken to someone who makes everything revolve around themselves, you know exactly what I am talking about. And the hardest part is this. Sometimes you cannot walk away, because they are not just a stranger. They are your parent, your partner, your boss, your coworker. You cannot block them. You cannot avoid them. So the question is not how do I escape? The real question is how do I engage without losing myself? This is not a conversation about diagnosis. It is not a clinical breakdown of personality disorders. This is a message about survival, about communication, about strategy. Because whether or not they are technically a narcissist, some people exhibit narcissistic behaviors, and those behaviors can wreck your peace if you are not prepared for them. So let us get clear. When you deal with someone like this, you are not having a conversation. You are stepping into a game, a very specific game, one you probably have played without even knowing the rules. I call it praise or provoke. And once you see it, you will never unsee it. Here is how it works. If you are not giving them praise, if you are not feeding their need for attention and validation, they will provoke you. They will say things to trigger you, frustrate you, make you question your reality, and push you into emotional reaction. Because for them, it is not about truth. It is about control. It is not about connection. It is about feeding the ego. And if they cannot get admiration from you, they will settle for agitation. Because either way, your attention belongs to them. And here is the dangerous part. This game is rigged. You cannot win it. Not because you are weak, not because you are not wise, but because it was never designed to be fair. Just like a carnival game built to keep you playing but never let you win. You think if you just explain it clearly enough, they will get it. You think if you show them how much they hurt you, they will apologize. You think if you are patient enough, kind enough, logical enough, they will finally change. But they never do. And you end up drained, confused, blaming yourself. Let me say this clearly. It is not your fault. You are not the problem. You are not broken for wanting to fix what is broken. You are not foolish for trying to believe the best in someone. But you do need a new mindset. When you talk to someone who exhibits narcissistic patterns, do not expect a fair game. Expect manipulation. Expect distortion. Expect deflection. But most of all, expect the shift. The moment you stop giving them praise, they will switch to provoke. And if you are not careful, they will pull you into a cycle of emotional warfare. So what do? You begin by recognizing the game. You begin by refusing to compete in something you were never meant to win. And in the next section, I will show you how to communicate without giving them fuel. But for now, just remember this. Your peace is not built on their approval. Your value is not measured by their reaction. And your voice does not need to shout to stay strong. Before you can outsmart the pattern, you have to understand the pattern. The trap does not begin when they shout or twist the truth. It begins much earlier, in a rhythm so subtle you might miss it unless you look closely. It begins with praise, and it always ends in provocation. Here is how it works. Some people feed on attention the way others need oxygen. As long as you are applauding, admiring, or affirming them, everything seems fine. They smile. They compliment you. They act generous. But make no mistake, this peace is not built on mutual respect. It is built on your willingness to keep the spotlight on them. But what happens when you stop, when you set a boundary, when you speak honestly, when you stop clapping and start thinking for yourself? That is when the shift begins. You will see it in their tone, in their words, in the sudden coldness or cutting remark. The moment you stop feeding the need for praise, they will flip the script. They will provoke you. And the shift is not random. It is calculated. It is designed to get one thing back: control. They want control over your emotions, over the energy in the room, over the storyline. So if they cannot have your admiration, they will go after your agitation, because both keep the focus on them. Both give them power. And for them, power is the goal. Not truth, not connection, not growth, just power. This is what makes the game so toxic. You can be calm, kind, generous, supportive. You can do everything right and still lose, because the rules are not based on what is right. They are based on what feeds them. And unless you are constantly giving them emotional fuel, they will find ways to stir the fire. Think about the times you felt confused after a conversation, when you walked away wondering if you were the problem, when you tried to explain yourself over and over again, hoping to be heard, but it only made things worse. That is not miscommunication. That is manipulation. That is the trap. And once you are in it, it is hard to see clearly, because you start to believe if you just find the right words, they will finally understand. If you just remain calm enough, loving enough, wise enough, they will finally respect you. But they never do, because the game is not designed for resolution. It is designed for control. So how do you get out? You change the mindset. You stop trying to win. You stop trying to be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to fix what they refuse to acknowledge is broken. Your strength is not in playing better. Your strength is in refusing to play. This takes discipline. It takes self-awareness. Because your default may want to explain, to clarify, to make peace. But peace is not possible in a game that is built to escalate. You cannot negotiate with someone who only listens when they win. You cannot resolve a cycle that is designed to repeat. You need a new definition of victory. Victory is not getting them to apologize. Victory is not changing their behavior. Victory is not proving your point. Victory is walking away with your integrity intact. Victory is setting a boundary and not apologizing for it. Victory is knowing who you are even when they try to convince you otherwise. So when you feel the switch from praise to provoke, do not fall for it. Do not take the bait. Do not hand over your peace in exchange for temporary validation. You are not here to play their game. You are here to protect your clarity, to lead with calm, to honor your voice. And sometimes that means saying less. Sometimes that means saying nothing. Because silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. In the next part, I will show you how to respond without reacting, how to speak without surrendering power. But for now, let this truth settle deep. You are not responsible for their triggers. You are only responsible for your response. Now that you understand the game, it is time to learn how to walk through it without being pulled into it. This is where most people get stuck. Not because they lack intelligence or compassion, but because they keep responding in ways that make sense in healthy conversations. They keep using logic, emotion, empathy, and none of that works here. With narcissistic behaviors, your strength is not found in arguing better. It is found in not arguing at all. Your power is not in delivering the perfect response. It is in delivering a response that gives them nothing to work with. That is what I call a flat neutral statement. Let me be clear. This is not passive. This is not dismissive. This is control. And in a conversation with someone who thrives on reaction, control is everything. So what does a flat neutral statement sound like? It sounds like this. Noted. Okay. Thank you. Interesting. That is good to know. Simple. Calm. Emotionless. Short. These statements carry no judgment, no heat, no open door, which means they cannot be twisted, they cannot be turned into an argument, they cannot be used against you. And most importantly, they do not give the other person the emotional fuel they are looking for. This is where your discipline is tested, because everything in you will want to defend yourself, to explain, to prove your point, especially when you are being attacked or misunderstood. But that is the bait. And every time you take it, you give away your peace. Flat neutral statements work because they create a wall without becoming a weapon. They signal that you are present, but not participating. You are hearing, but not absorbing. You are aware, but not engaged in the emotional storm. Let me show you the difference. When someone says something disrespectful and you respond with "that is not true and here is why," you have just opened the door to a long emotional debate. You have made it about logic. You have stepped into the ring. But if you respond with "noted," the conversation ends right there. There is nothing left to push, nothing left to twist. You remain centered. You remain in control. Even the tone matters. When you say "okay," say it flat. Not with sarcasm, not with a smirk, not with a sigh. Just calm, still, grounded. Because the goal is not to win them over. The goal is to win yourself back. This takes practice. You might feel cold at first. You might feel like you are being distant. But that is only because you are used to giving too much. You are used to fighting for connection. You are used to handing over your energy to people who never valued it. That ends here. When you respond with calm, short, neutral words, you are saying, "I see what you are doing and I am not joining you there." This strategy protects you. It resets the dynamic. It creates space for your emotional clarity to lead instead of your emotional reaction. And let me remind you, this is not about being heartless. This is about being wise. You are not refusing empathy. You are refusing manipulation. You are not shutting down communication. You are shutting down control. So here's your challenge. The next time someone pushes, provokes, or pokes at your peace, do not react. Choose your phrase. Keep it short. Keep it flat. Keep it neutral. Say less. Mean more. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is almost nothing at all. In the next part, we will talk about time and how limiting your interaction can become your greatest tool. But until then, remember this. Flat is not weak. It is focused. Neutral is not cold. It is controlled. Short is not small. It is strategic. There is one more layer to mastering this game that most people overlook. It is not just about what you say. It is about how long you stay. Because when you are dealing with someone who thrives on control, time is one of the currencies they use. The longer you stay in the conversation, the more room they have to twist the narrative, shift the blame, and drain your energy. This is why limiting your interaction is just as important as controlling your response. When you stay too long, you start negotiating with your own boundaries. You start explaining what does not need explanation. You start hoping they will finally see what you mean. But they will not. Not because you are unclear, not because you are emotional, but because they are not listening for understanding. They are listening for openings. Openings to take control. Openings to spin the moment back to them. So how do you protect yourself? You set a time limit. You create emotional space. You stop expecting deep conversations from people who are committed to shallow power games. You do not owe them more time than they deserve. You do not owe them access to your thoughts, your heart, or your energy when they have shown you they will use it against you. And no, this is not rude. This is responsible. Responsible for your peace. Responsible for your growth. Responsible for your ability to walk away from what does not align with who you are becoming. When you enter a conversation with a narcissistic pattern, do not bring your tea and get comfortable. Bring your clarity. Bring your clock. Be kind, but keep it brief. Be calm, but keep it moving. Because the longer you stay, the more you give. And the more you give, the more they will take. This is not about being distant. It is about being deliberate. Your time is a boundary. Use it. Keep it tight. Keep it purposeful. And when the conversation begins to twist, when the pattern starts to repeat, when the energy shifts from communication to control, that is your signal. End it. Walk away. Not with drama. Not with explanation. Just with resolve. Say your flat statement. Thank you. Noted. Okay. And exit. Let them sit with silence. Let them feel the absence of your energy. Let them notice the shift. Because nothing is more frustrating to someone addicted to reaction than someone who refuses to give it. You do not need to fix the conversation. You just need to finish it on your terms. And when you do, you will notice something powerful. You feel lighter, clearer, stronger. Not because they changed, but because you did. Because you finally chose yourself over the game. In the next section, we will talk about how to use their obsession with attention to your advantage. But before that, remember this. Not every moment deserves your time. Not every voice deserves a seat at your table. And not every battle needs your presence to end. There is something you must understand if you want to truly shift the dynamic with someone who exhibits narcissistic behavior. They do not care what you think. They care what others might think. They are not guided by empathy. They are guided by image. That is why they do not respond to logic, to honesty, or even to pain. But they will respond to pressure from the invisible crowd they believe is watching them. This is their secret obsession, their audience, their imagined approval rating. And if you can tap into that, if you can gently remind them that they are not the only one in the room, you can shift their behavior without ever raising your voice. Narcissists perform, always. Whether it is one person or 100, they see every interaction as a stage. And in their mind, someone is always watching, someone is always judging. And more than anything, they want to be seen as superior, respected, admired. Even when they are wrong, they want to appear right. So here's the strategy. Do not argue with them directly. Speak to the audience they care about. Not the literal crowd, the psychological one, their imagined jury, their circle of influence, the people they want to impress. Instead of saying that was hurtful, say, I wonder what others would think about the way you said that. Instead of saying you are wrong, say if you think that opinion would go over well with your colleagues, then that is your call. Instead of reacting with anger, respond with reflection. If you think that makes you look good, I will let you decide. When you do this, you trigger something deep in them, a calculation, a shift from domination to self-preservation. Because now, they are not just dealing with you. They are performing for a crowd again. And they do not want to lose the room. I have seen it happen in real time. I have watched people turn from arrogant to apologetic in a matter of seconds, not because they suddenly cared, but because they remembered someone else might be watching. It is subtle, but it is powerful. And you can use it without ever being manipulative. Because your goal is not to shame. Your goal is to bring the heat of their own spotlight back to their choices. This tactic works especially well when you are being cornered, when they are trying to bait you, when you feel the trap closing in. Instead of defending yourself, pivot the frame. Talk about how it might look to others. Mention a name they care about. Reference a setting where appearance matters. Say things like, I wonder what your team would think about that approach. Or do you think your friend would agree with how you said that? Keep it calm. Keep it light. But keep it clear. You are no longer speaking to their ego. You are speaking to their need to be admired. And in that space, you are far more likely to get a shift than if you argue point for point. This does not mean you are giving them power. It means you are using what you know to protect your peace. You are not stooping to their level. You are rising above the game and using their own rules to your advantage. Because if they are going to play in front of a crowd, let that crowd become the mirror. And yes, sometimes the crowd is invisible. Sometimes it is imagined. But in their mind, it is always present. That is why this works. That is why a single sentence like I do not know if others would agree with that can stop a spiral in its tracks. This technique is not about controlling them. It is about influencing the frame. It reminds them that they are being perceived, and when narcissistic behavior is exposed to light, it often softens. Not because it becomes humble, but because it becomes aware. You may never get an apology. You may never get full honesty. But you can get space. You can get a better tone. You can create a pause. And sometimes, that is all you need. So the next time you feel the push, remember the stage. Remember the audience. Remember that you are not the only one they care about. And use that truth with wisdom. Keep your voice calm. Your language simple. and your presence unshaken. Because when you stop feeding their need for control and instead speak to the image they are trying to preserve, you shift the balance. Quietly, effectively, powerfully. This is not manipulation. This is mastery. Mastery of your energy, mastery of your voice, mastery of how to walk through fire without getting burned. In the final section, we will talk about how to recognize the line between strength and self-sacrifice. But for now, remember this: they do not respond to you. They respond to the people they think are watching you. Use that gently, use that wisely, and never forget who truly holds the mirror. Sometimes the most difficult part of navigating narcissistic behavior is not the conversation you have with them. It is the one you have with yourself afterward. You walk away wondering if you said too much, if you reacted too strongly, if somehow you became the very thing you were trying to handle. That doubt is real. It lingers. It speaks in questions. What if I am the problem? What if I am the one with the ego? What if I am the one who needs to change? Let me speak to that voice right now. If you are asking the question, then you are not the problem. Because narcissists do not ask that question. They do not reflect. They do not wonder if they caused harm. They do not carry the weight of self-awareness. But you do. You feel. You care. You notice. That is not weakness. That is proof of your humanity. You are not perfect. None of us are. We all have moments when we speak too sharply or make it about ourselves. That is not narcissism. That is being human. The difference is in what happens next. Do you take responsibility? Do you apologize? Do you reflect and grow? If the answer is yes, then you are not walking in the same pattern. You are not playing the same game. The defining trait of narcissistic behavior is not confidence. It is the absence of accountability, the inability to empathize, the refusal to be wrong. If you can look someone in the eye and say, "I am sorry," or "I was wrong," or "I did not realize how that made you feel," then you are moving in the opposite direction. And if someone in your life constantly makes you question your reality, question your worth, question your truth, that is not love. That is not leadership. That is manipulation. No healthy relationship leaves you doubting your own identity. Real connection brings clarity. Real communication builds you, not breaks you. So here is what I want you to remember. Your ability to feel guilt is not a flaw. It is a compass. Your ability to self-correct is not weakness. It is wisdom. Your desire to make things better is not a sign of blame. It is a sign of depth. You do not need to carry what is not yours. You do not need to fix what they refuse to see. And you do not need to stay in spaces where your soul is slowly being dismantled just to keep the peace. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of clarity. And clarity begins when you know who you are, even when others try to confuse you. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole, to grow with grace, to speak with truth, and to walk away from anything that requires you to shrink in order to survive. You have learned how the game works. You know the patterns. You know the tools. You know how to recognize the shift from praise to provoke, how to speak without surrendering power, how to limit time, and how to speak to the invisible audience they serve. And now you know something even deeper. You are not the narcissist. You are the one who chose to understand instead of react, to rise instead of retaliate, to protect your peace without losing your voice. And if this message resonated with you, let it be more than words. Let it be practice. Let it be a new standard for how you show up, not just with them, but with yourself. Because the better you communicate, the better you live. And the better you live, the less you tolerate anything that diminishes your worth. If you found value in this series and want to keep building emotional clarity, communication strength, and quiet confidence, you are already in the right place. This is Daily 1% Impact. Every episode is here to help you rise 1% stronger than you were yesterday. So if you have not already, follow the channel, share this message with someone who needs it, and take what you have learned into your next real-life conversation. Because the impact is not in what you know, it is in what you practice, 1% at a time.